Fear is emotional debt. Every time you avoid something intimidating, it's like borrowing comfort, but you'll pay it back with interest and regret, self doubt, and a life ruled by emotional dysregulation. Fear begins in imagination. To quote Seneca, there are more things likely to frighten us than there are to crush us. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. You felt this. Hours lost to worries that never materialize or do, but not nearly as bad as you had imagined. The punishment, the breakup, the diagnosis, it's the anticipation that hurts more than the event. When you obsess over worst case scenarios, your body reacts as if they're real because it can't distinguish imagination from reality. Think about being attacked and your heart races. Picture confronting your ex's new lover and your cortisol spikes. The body responds to thought like it's training for war. And that's why visualization feels powerful. People call it manifestation, but most of the time, it's just dopamine. You get the reward without the result. Daydreaming replaces doing, and fear works the same way, but you don't need mental rehearsals, you need movement. Action is what resets the nervous system and reminds your body what's actually happening right now. If you weren't fantasizing, you wouldn't be suffering. You could actually be solving the problem, but instead you're obsessing. You could be doing anything else, but you're sitting around feeling bad for yourself, spinning a completely made up story about how miserable your life is. Be real about it. What good does it do to indulge those thoughts? None. But I can't stop. Yeah, because you're sitting around doing nothing about it. You know what would snap you out of it? Being too busy to think about it. Filling your day with meaningful work that absorbs your focus and makes good use of your energy. Fear should always either initiate productive action or be discarded immediately. Oh, but I don't want to run from my problems. No, you are the problem. That run is part of your training routine as you build a better character and turn negative energy into productive action. And if you were that person, you would be much harder to control. The system you live in isn't built for people like that. You're a better consumer when you're fearful. You're easier to sell to, easier to manipulate, easier to distract. You're less likely to resist abuse, question authority, or challenge the status quo. A status quo, by the way, that always benefits someone. And if you didn't design it, it isn't you. When you don't learn to conquer the impulse to engage with negative fantasies, your attention becomes easy to hijack. If I want to influence your decisions, I don't have to tell you what to think. I only have to guide your focus, which is simple to do when you're already used to spiraling. All it takes is one seed of doubt, a little nudge, and you'll do the rest. Fear is a tool of control. Placing vague threats on the horizon keeps people obedient. You may have noticed that we're always on the brink of World War III. If it's not the Middle East, it's Russia. If it's not Russia, it's China or North Korea. Oh no, it's time for another election, so let's pull the Venezuela card out of our ass. It's all fear mongering, and the strategies used to influence geopolitics are the exact same principles you'll see in the workplace or when dating a girl with a nose piercing. The battle is over your attention because that's what leads to influence. What captures attention? Novelty and emotion. Fear is the most primal emotion, which makes it the perfect hook because it overrides reason and rushes you into bad decisions. And if you can't master your fear, someone else will. But it's not always the big dramatic fears that control you. It's usually the small familiar ones, the daily anxiety, the low constant hum of worry. Big fears at least come with adrenaline and a sense of purpose and meaning. Worry offers none of that. It keeps you suspended between thought and action while you rot in place. It erodes your ability to focus, to commit, to move forward with conviction, and eventually you stop living strategically and start existing reactively, always waiting, always tense, always dead inside. A fearless person is hard to manipulate. That's why the ruling classes, charlatans, abusers, and toxic authority figures all deal in fear, presenting themselves as the cure for dangers they've invented. If they can convince you that your safety depends on them, they never have to justify their actions. You'll rationalize the abuse yourself because fear makes obedience feel like survival. And as long as they control what you fear, they'll control how you live. Another thing about control, the story matters. The filter matters. So who's telling you this information? We rely on what we're told when we can't verify the truth ourselves. Take the news, for example. Do you actually know what's happening in Ukraine? No, you don't, because you're not there. Oh, but the reporter, the news anchor, are they telling you the truth? Do they even have all the information? And do you really believe that a company spending billions of dollars every year just to stay in business is doing it out of pure love for keeping you informed about events that have no effect on your life? Information is never neutral. It's a product, and fear is the ultimate marketing strategy. Oh, but I just care so much about the Ukrainians. Yeah, me too, especially Irina Zaruska, a refugee who was stabbed in the neck for being white right here in my city. I've been on that same train more times than I can count. So tell me, why are we worried about what's happening overseas when we can't even get our own house in order? The same logic applies to everything else you can't control. Why should I care about the economic impact of, say, tariffs? I can't do anything about tariffs. I have no control over what the president does. I can't influence international trade or the strength of the dollar. An obsession with distant problems is a distraction from the imminent ones that you could fix if you stopped outsourcing your focus to things you can't change, but we do it anyway. We love grandiose problems because those excuse personal inaction. It's easier to whine about geopolitics than to confront your own mess. And how do media companies have those billions of dollars in the first place? How do they make money? Do you send them a check every month? Are they relying on you? No, their revenue comes from ads designed to influence you. Every second you stay tuned is another cent in their pocket. And you think they haven't mastered the art of making you addicted to their content? Or that they don't know exactly what they're doing? You still trust someone willing to manipulate you like that. Oh, thank you so much for telling me what to think and for stressing me out so I can feel informed. I really appreciate the false sense of security that comes from thinking I'm smart enough to make a better decision about who to vote for. Even though I only have two parties to choose from, and I'll only vote for the one of the party I've already decided is mine, even if I don't like the person. The illusion of choice keeps you watching, the outrage keeps you paying, and the machine keeps running because you can't look away. And I'm apparently at the age where social media algorithms have decided my main concerns are my hairline and loneliness. That's great. Love that. Every other ad is basically some mix of hair loss products and overseas dating sites. Whether or not either of those things appeal to me is irrelevant. The point is that it's meant to trigger me. The message isn't, you're getting older, here's how to take better care of yourself. It's, flesh eating bacteria is devouring your hair follicles, or it's the last chance to get this under control, or find the only woman who will never leave you. Right, like that'll happen. It's all a scam. Fear, urgency, and insecurity are the hooks. The sale is secondary. And why do they do this? Well, because fear narrows focus and heightens emotion. That's useful when danger is real, but destructive when it's imagined or worse, designed. Tunnel vision helps you act fast and block out distractions, but when that distraction is manufactured, someone else decides where your attention goes. That's the real game. But I want my content to stay practical. So I'm not here to rage against the political system. We could do that if you like, but it's not useful to you. The only value in exposing it is to prove that it is just a performance. Once that clicks, you stop wasting energy on outrage. Politics just makes a clear example. If you can recognize how world leaders use fear to steer attention, you'll start noticing the same mechanics in coworkers, family, and relationships. The scale changes, but the manipulation tactics don't. There are people whose entire strategy for power depends on fear. If you don't do what I say, I'll leave you, I'll fire you, I'll make your life miserable. It's always the same formula: threat, compliance, reward. Without understanding how it works, you end up reacting to every emotional jab they throw. You think you're making choices, but really you're responding to conditioning. So, how do you gain awareness of this dynamic? What secret trick do I have to teach you? Obviously, that's why you're here, right? None. You already know all the secrets. You feel it every time your chest tightens and you start making excuses for someone else's bad behavior. That pressure in your gut is the warning. It's the body recognizing that manipulation is taking place before your mind catches up. Pay attention to it and stop making excuses because awareness helps cut the strings. When you try to escape pain, you trap yourself in a pattern of avoidance. You think you're protecting yourself, but you're actually training your mind to retreat. Every flinch gives more power to what scares you. The fear grows, not because it's real, but because you keep feeding it. Small obstacles start to look impossible. You lock onto imaginary targets while the real problems go unnoticed. You worry about what might happen, what's exaggerated, what's irrelevant, and ignore what's right in front of you, effectively giving away your power for free. Fear based tendencies are often inherited. You absorb them well before you understand them. Like as a child, you your tone, expression, and reaction, learning when to tense up and when to stay small. Families teach fear through repetition and example, the same way they teach language. Culture reinforces it, rewarding caution and dramatizing danger until anxiety feels like wisdom. The nervous system memorizes every single cue, every sigh, every warning, every moment of panic, and labels it as safety. Eventually, fear stops signaling danger and starts feeling like home. That's how control begins. When you grow up around constant anxiety, you start to mistake vigilance for intelligence. You think that worrying makes you prepared, and the mind becomes addicted to tension because calm feels careless. Media companies understand this well. They turn fear into entertainment and entertainment into conditioning. Every headline, crisis, and outrage trains you to need another one. And the result is a population that feels uneasy without something to fear, a world where safety feels suspicious and chaos feels familiar. The same conditioning shapes how you relate to people in general. When you grow up equating tension with care or anxiety with attention, you learn to chase instability as proof of love. Your nervous system mistakes calm for distance, so peace feels uncomfortable and chaos feels alive. That's how people pleasing, attachment issues, and emotional dependence take root. Totally not speaking from experience here at all. That would be crazy to say. Fear teaches you to earn connection instead of receiving it. Fear of rejection becomes obedience, and fear of conflict becomes silence when boundaries are crossed. In the workplace, the same instinct turns into compliance, and people learn to manage impressions instead of outcomes. The nervous system still believes safety depends on keeping others happy, so it trades honesty for approval. And until you separate fear from attachment, you'll keep confusing submission with loyalty. No one is born a coward. That trait is learned one choice at a time because character is not built in a single moment, but shaped by repetition. Every time you indulge anxiety, you teach your unconscious who you are. Every worry, hesitation, and excuse becomes data. This is me. This is what I do. And by the time a real test arrives, the decision is already made. The mind doesn't rise to the occasion, it defaults to its training. If you don't build character in private, your future is already set. If you never learn to reject fear, you enslave your mind to it. Thought becomes habit, habit becomes instinct. And when worry is the primary pattern you've practiced, panic is just the next logical step. You've already programmed yourself to rationalize timidity by hiding fear behind the mask of reason. I'm just being careful. I'm waiting for the right time. Each excuse buys a little comfort for the price of a little freedom. Over time, those rationalizations stack like bricks, building a wall that feels protective but acts like a cage. Years pass, and you start calling the cage your nature because that's what it's become. But you rename it temperament, personality, or limits. Anything but what it really is. Fear rehearsed until it's hardened into identity. You don't need a therapist to find those walls, although I am working on a course that will help people to do this. Subscribe to my email list for some free and helpful tools. But beyond working with a professional of my caliber, the tools are things like observation, confrontation, and righteous anger. Because believe it or not, rage overrides fear. That's why we get angry. And sometimes you have to take an honest look at how you've trapped yourself and get mad about the opportunities that you've missed because this isn't a one time deal. You have to build the habit of facing fear every single day. Confront the worries not once, but constantly. Find where they come from, childhood, trauma, conditioning, whatever, and start cutting the strings. Most fears don't need understanding, they need resistance. I'm sick of this modern therapy crap about how you need to baby your inner child. No, you grow by demanding that it mature. You're not a child anymore. Beat that little brat and tell him it's time for his balls to drop. Safety doesn't come from comfort, it comes from strength earned through confrontation with danger. You don't outthink fear. It's just not possible. The fear response is chemically hardwired into your body. You're going to feel afraid, and that's a good thing. The only way to recondition your nervous system to not become fearful is to prove to it that it is wrong, and you can only do that through experience. You have to show it the threat isn't as big as it feels, and the only way to do that is through action. Every time you face something terrifying, you reclaim the energy it tries to use against you. That's when control shifts. Your body doesn't run the show anymore. You do. And courage isn't built by waiting to feel ready. It's built by moving while afraid until decisive action becomes the default instinct. The modern therapy fad is built on endless self analysis. You talk about your feelings until you've dissected every memory, relived every pain over and over again until you're numb to the memory and you found a way to blame your parents for all of it. And you call it progress, but it isn't. All you're doing is trauma bonding with your therapist. Their business depends on keeping you dependent, chasing that dopamine rush of emotional release, that little cathartic moment where it's like, oh, yeah, I finally worked through something. Sure. But venting isn't transformation. Talking doesn't rewire habits. Change changes things. You already know what you need to change or what you need to do to fix yourself. If you're worrying about something, stop thinking about it. And the only way I've found to do that practically is to be too busy to worry. Fill your time with action instead of anxiety. If instead of worrying, you spent all that energy actually, I don't know, fixing your problem, I guarantee you would be a lot less stressed. Not because life got easier, but because you finally started living emotion instead of hesitation. You're anxious about a public speaking event? Go practice your presentation. Anxious about making rent? Find a side hustle or pick up some more hours. Anxious you'll be cheated on? Well, I can't help you there. Dating pool is a biohazard, and half the time you need a shower and a cigarette just for dipping your toe in. But even then, the solution is still the same: act. Let the anxiety of dying alone motivate you to do something, to better yourself, to go talk to more people. Do something about what is bothering you, or cut it off and move on. A fear based mindset eventually mutates into people pleasing. You try managing everyone's mood to protect yourself, but it grows until you feel responsible for how everybody else feels, which doesn't work. And it's exhausting. Every forced apology, every over explanation, and quiet concession is a survival reflex. It's a way to keep rejection and abandonment away for just one more day. I'm speaking from experience here. Manipulators can sense this tendency and instinct immediately. They learn what you fear and use it as leverage, dangling approval, affection, stability, or whatever else just out of reach so that you stay exactly where they want you. This could all be over unexpectedly. You'll make me hurt myself. That's my favorite. Or you'll never find better. Okay. The moment you believe them, you hand over the leash. And our natural bias for loss aversion locks the dynamic in place because you'd rather endure misery than risk uncertainty. If they're especially bad, they'll stage these attacks randomly, so you're always on your toes, which means you either overcompensate and end up walking on eggshells, or are so frazzled from the constant psychological warfare, you end up playing even further into their hands. The cure isn't comfort. It's defiance. You break fear's control by setting boundaries while your hands still shake and your voice still breaks. Power is not given out randomly, it's taken forcibly. When you choose to do what's right, no matter the danger, fear feeds self doubt. So every time you shy away from adversity, a piece of your future self dies. And as you slowly, methodically annihilate your potential through hesitation, you begin to wither and decay. Then wake up one day and wonder how you got like this. Where's the spark? The life? Where'd all your energy go? Well, what you failed to understand is that fear is energy. Fear gives you adrenaline. When you spend your whole life suppressing that energy, its potential power evaporates into nothingness. But fear can be transmuted. The difference in how you respond to a perceived threat isn't emotion, it's conditioning. The trained mind turns adrenaline into focus. The unwon sees it as danger. Fear is simply energy wearing pain's mask. And pain is our best teacher, so it stands to reason that our bodies are just trying to keep us from getting hurt. But behind that challenge is the gold mine of knowledge and experience and wisdom that could unlock major breakthroughs in our life. So, if you can condition yourself to tolerate pain and accept the worst case scenario, there's nothing left to be afraid of. And when you reach that point, you realize that fear was acting as a brake holding you back from fully engaging in the process. So now all you can feel is the exhilaration of those chemicals, which is why I ride motorcycles. When you stop running from discomfort and start using it, the same current fuels precision, discipline, and drive. Pain becomes feedback, not punishment. The key to finding the strength to truly transform yourself like this comes from purpose. Having a mission gives you drive because purpose gives meaning to pain. When your life has direction, fear becomes part of the training montage, not a signal to stop. You can't stop feeling fear, but you can stop being fearful. You can't avoid fear, but you can regulate it. The goal isn't to remove negative emotion. That's where people really get screwed up on this, especially again in the modern like therapy context. They think that they have to get away from anything that makes them uncomfortable. Anything it scares them. It's painful. It disrupts their mindset, and they're not strong enough to deal with those things, and so they run from it. That just makes it worse. It locks them into a pattern of avoidance, and it keeps them from doing the things that would actually change their situation, and unfortunately, that leaves them trapped and very much afraid of things that they shouldn't be afraid of. The goal isn't to remove negative emotion, but to train your nervous system to carry it without breaking. Journaling and cold showers don't build character if you still avoid confrontation. Affirmations won't save you if you freak out during discomfort. Your emotions are not the enemy, your cowardness is, because character is only refined through fire, not cheap therapy tricks. So stop looking for ways to self soothe and start taking on challenges that justify being afraid. Learn to accept the pain as training, and anxiety will become a superpower. Fear and worry compound like debt until they own you. And every act of avoidance just adds interest and late fees. So stop borrowing comfort. Pay down the balance by facing what you've been avoiding, and you'll see that the cost of courage is always cheaper than regret. Thank you guys so much for listening. I appreciate your time. I was kind of kidding about the whole email thing, but if you do want to subscribe, I have some useful tools for you. It's totally free. I'm not going to spam you. I will send out some insightful things whenever I get around to it. I'm not like a huge emailer person. It's just, as I feel it's necessary. And I'm going to put together a course on how to use that tool that I have in the PDF format. But you don't need that by any means just to get started. You can pull that up, start playing around with it right away. And I think you can find a lot of value in it. So thank you guys for your time, attention, and patience with me. And I will see you soon.